Melissa, can you confirm that there is a quorum?
We do have one.
We do have a quorum.
Yes,
All
we
right.
do.
Let me call the meeting to order. It is September 19th, 2024, and this is the meeting of the Measure J Oversight Commission. We begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's all stand and face. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Melissa, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Cavaderos.
Present.
Commissioner Peter. Present. Commissioner Isaac.
Present.
Commissioner Chong. Present. Commissioner Thigpen. Present. Commissioner Wolfer. Present. Commissioner Wolfer. Present. Oh, making sure twice. Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Kravitz.
Present.
Commissioner Newby.
Here.
Vice Chair Davis.
Present.
Chair Sipkins.
Present. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. The Measure J Commission will discuss the order of the agenda and may amend the order, add items, or may remove items from the agenda for discussion. With that in mind, do any of the commissioners have any additions or changes that they would like to make, remove items from the agenda? If so, let me know, please. If not, can I have a motion accepting the agenda?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda passes. The next item is the approval of minutes. We had a special meeting, if you recall, on July 17th, 2024. And as at that meeting, basically, we elected officers. The minutes of that meeting are attached to your folder. I don't know if you've all had a chance to review them. But this time I ask if there are any changes, objections, modifications that you'd like to make to those very short minutes. If not, I call for a motion to accept those those minutes of the July 17, 2024 meeting.
So moved, Davis.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? If not, it passes. Thank you. The next item is a public comment, and this time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Measure J Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed in the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned to each speaker. So, Melissa, would you like to call up any members who would like to speak?
Yes, our first speaker of the night is Mr. Jonathan Yorba with the Center.
Good evening, Chairman Simpkins, commissioners, city officials and staff, and members of the public. My name is Jonathan Lorenzo Yorba. I'm the senior manager of grants at the center, and I'm here tonight with James Lindquist, the center's director of development. We are here on behalf of Mike Thompson, our CEO, who was away but asked us to thank you for the outstanding work you were doing to improve the quality of life in our community. Palm Springs looks great because of what you do. The center is going to submit a Measure J community initiated project application for a grant that is in alignment with Measure J funding. It's in alignment with the City of Palm Springs strategic plan, and that will positively impact tens of thousands of residents and visitors who use the center's services and programs. Our sustainability and transportation project will do 4 things. First, it's going to provide solar covered shelter from sweltering heat for currently uncovered parking spots in front of the center. 2 of these spots are designated for disabled drivers. Second, we're going to provide shelter over the long 90-foot walkway from the parking spots to the elevator. Third, we're going to provide a solar covered rideshare shelter with seating for people who use Uber, Lyft, taxis, and other modes of transportation. And fourth, we're going to provide 9 new rainbow colored bike racks that will be shaded from sun, wind, and rain. Our project will improve the business community, downtown enhancement, health services, emergency services, sustainability, conservation, and the economy. The benefits to our project are many. First, visitors to the center will now have themselves and their cars protected from the summer's scorching heat. The bike racks will encourage bicycling, which will have an effect of helping to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the dollars the center will save will be redesignated for essential services and programs for all Palm Springs residents, visitors, and tourists, as everyone is welcome at the center. We thank you in advance for your consideration of our Measure J community initiated project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speakers, Melissa?
No, that is all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is welcome comments from the Measure J chair, and that's me. At the last meeting in July, before the August break, I was exhausted here, and I can't remember very much of the meeting, frankly, but I remember that I was elected as chair. And I want to tell you all how honored I am and how humble I am that I got your votes and that you have confidence in my ability to lead this commission. So I want to thank you all, one and all, for that. I also want to say that I learned a lot from last year's chair and vice chair. Chair Soto and Vice Chair Robin were excellent at leading this commission, and I hope that Vice Chair Davis and myself can fill their shoes as well as they filled their shoes. I also want to say a few words about how happy and pleased I am to be able to work with the city employees that we have that worked at this commission. I have been peripherally involved in state and local government back in my home state of Minnesota. And I must say that I am deeply surprised, honored, pleased, and it always impresses me at how the city employees of this city are as dedicated as they are to the work that they do on behalf of all of us. So to Melissa and to Chris and to Joelle and to all of you in the back of the room who are city employees, even including the city attorney, who I'm a former attorney myself. I want to thank you all for your service and what a great job you guys do. So thank you all. Those are my comments. Next, there is new business, and the next item on the agenda is 7A, and we have a presentation, I think, by Ellen Goodman. Is that correct?
Yes.
You want to come up?
Hi, everyone. Will you pull it up on the screen? Should we use one of these?
If you like, it's mine, I can.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen Goodman. I am the Foundation Director for Palm Springs Unified School District Foundation. Thank you very much for having me here. It's been a long time coming, and I appreciate your patience. We would like to present, I'm here with my colleague, and this is Nicole Van. There's not an extra seat for her at the table, but she will be a part of our presentation and discussion. Nicole is a board member at the foundation, and she's also project manager overseeing wellness centers and the school garden projects.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Nicole. We don't. Okay. So a couple of things, these are just really, this particular slide really is just an overview. And it is, we're gonna start with school gardens and really what school gardens can do academically and in the community. So it just says these gardens offer opportunities to explore subjects like science, biodiversity, life cycles, nutrition, the study of the ecosystem, the resource availability, sustainability, and fostering a renewed connection to the environment. We're gonna cover two schools today, which is Palm Springs High School and Sierra Vista Charter. Let's look at the next slide. Now, the slides are a little dense, it's really for your reading pleasure, so I'll just really just talk about what our experience has been. So Palm Springs High School has a very vibrant garden community that was already established. And where their vision and where their need was to establish a greenhouse. Their long-term vision is to create seedlings so that they can grow all year round in the greenhouse and then take those seedlings and then plant those during season, so they don't have to actually start from seeds and sowing seeds. The other thing that they do is they provide seedlings to other schools. And then their long-term vision is ultimately they would like to be at the farmer's market, where they'll be able to provide the seedlings that they grow in the greenhouse to the community, in addition to the vegetables that they plant. So funds were used for greenhouse, they were used for establishing all the irrigation, for establishing the seedlings, and then they also were able to purchase some fruit trees along with that. And you'll see we have raspberry, blackberry bushes, avocado tree, apple trees, and a kiwi tree. Some of the notes on that last page was the project from the greenhouse, that the items that they grew, they were able to actually work with Chef Tanya, where they were able to have a community meal, and Chef Tanya was able to use the vegetables and the herbs that they grew. So that was very exciting. And these are just some of the photos of their garden area and the items that they're growing. Interesting, I did put up a worm, you can kind of see a worm up there, because it's really not just about the vegetables and the herbs, I mean, they're really learning about earth sciences, and that's actually where this lives. This project lives inside of earth sciences, and their teacher, Eric Cross, is the gentleman who oversees the club. There are about 90 kids who are in the club. Yes. So those are some fun photos. And then we'll jump over to Sierra Vista Charter. So Sierra Vista Charter also has a very active garden community. And they do a lot of composting. Now, at Sierra Vista Charter, the difference is it is a part of their curriculum. So it's considered an elective. So it's actually a class versus an after-school club. Then students who are not in that class are also a part of their club. They were able to use the funds to establish garden boxes at every grade level versus just having a community garden. So Sierra Vista Charter is a K-8 charter school, and the middle school kids work in the public garden, and the elementary school kids now have their own individual boxes. And so some of the learning, let's see what we have. Well, we have some really fabulous photos, but it was, they established 6 garden boxes, they were able to take the seeds and the seedlings, they were able to do the irrigation, they planted a variety of different vegetables and herbs. And then they have 90 students in their club as well, and then they also use the product after it's grown. So they had 2 events, one was for Asian Island Pacific Month. They took the products and they made Asian salad for their community, and we had Commissioners Davis and Soto join us for that event. And this month, the Hispanic Heritage Month, they are doing salsa with the items that they grew. And I think we have some photos on the next page. And some photos. This is very exciting, very labor intensive, putting those boxes together, getting all that soil and everything for these little kids. And I will tell you that our children actually sent gifts. And so, Nicole, you wanna talk about the basil?
Sure. So the basil is from the Palm Springs High School Garden Club. I went there this afternoon to pick this up, and they were there killing all the basil off the stem and packaging it for you. It's left open so that it doesn't mold, because it's moist. So there's one for each of you. And while I was there, I got an opportunity to ask the students, the garden club, because they were currently there, what they particularly enjoy about being a part of the garden club. And a lot of them had different answers. One young man, he enjoyed the flowers that they grow because he likes to take those home. Some of them like taking the food. Others said it was patience because, you know, it's not very exciting at the beginning when they're just planting something, but when they ultimately see that fruit or that flower, they get really excited by that. So it was great to meet these students who are just, you know, out here planting and also doing the maintenance that comes with the planting and the gardening. So it was a great experience.
And then from Silver's Charter.
So it's a charter, has a nice thank you card.
That's cute.
So one of you lucky commissioners can take it.
I'll set it back here for one of you lucky commissioners.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, and you can see in the photos that the kids actually, that's the products that they grew. And we'll talk a little bit about, so the funding is for 4 gardens. We've completed 2 gardens. We have 2 gardens to complete this school year. And those gardens will be at Catherine Pitchy Elementary School and Korea Elementary School. And we'll talk a little bit about what our obstacles and our barriers have been and some of the unexpected results that we can celebrate that we didn't anticipate. We'll talk about that after the next few slides. I'm gonna jump to wellness centers. So we have received funding for our wellness center project. This particular wellness center that we're gonna see photos of and talk about is at Sierra Vista Charter. Vista Del Monte will be receiving their wellness center this fall. We will be starting on that project in October. And that should be completed in December, and we anticipate that Catherine Finchie Elementary School and Korea Elementary School will be finished by June. Our wellness centers, I'll just start with, this was an initiative that came out of COVID. And we weren't really the first to think about it. It was a nationwide, I don't want to say epidemic, but mental and behavioral health coming back from COVID was a nationwide problem. Our school district, some of you might know, is quite progressive and very willing to service the community. And so when we presented the idea of transforming an institutional classroom that looks like it was built in the 70s, so you can just imagine what that might look like, and that we would decompose that, we would take everything out of that room, we would clear the room out, and then we would reestablish that room as what I might call a Zen center. It is a holistic and organic wellness approach to schools. So what you saw when you were a student and what you get to experience in wellness will be 2 different experiences. And the reason for that is when a young person feels escalated and there is an issue, walking into an institutional room like a principal's office or a nurse's office or in another classroom will really do nothing to de-escalate those feelings. If anything, it can create more anxiety and more stress. And these issues could be disciplinary issues or behavioral, or there could be a crisis going on somewhere. So we have re-outfitted classrooms and turned them into these centers. Our schools are seeing about 300 students, these are unduplicated numbers, per wellness center. 84% of the students that are surveyed, so we work with a company, and when a student enters a wellness center, they enter their information, it captures the time, they get little smiley faces or how they're feeling, and it takes blood pressure and it also takes temperature. It's all done by image scans, so it's not facial scanning or imaging that they share, it is picking up the anomalies inside of the body. So this data is pretty solid data. 84% of the students say that they feel better after they leave the wellness center. They spend about 26 minutes in the wellness center when they are in there. 37%, this is a combined number, 37%, that's not combined, I'm sorry, the next one is. 37% say they visit the wellness center for quiet time. 17% meet therapists and counselors, and I'll tell you how that staff in a minute. 35% is combined, and that is students who say they're frustrated, tired, anxious, or they are being bullied. And you'll see the two charts there. And fifth period seems to be the most popular period of the day that students visit the wellness center. We also know that at a middle school, that students are visiting wellness centers more often when they first enter middle school versus in 8th grade as they start to leave middle school. We see the same with 9th graders, seems to be a popular grade. So that might just be acclimation and really understanding. So we'll switch to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about some of the barriers. So the funding is for 4 centers. And what we have run into is something that might not be uncommon in a public school system. Our first barrier was rooms, making sure that the schools actually had the room that they could provide for the wellness center, and that took some time. Making sure that there was staff. And the staff was a couple of different staffing models. First is what we might call a behavioral specialist or a paraprofessional, and they staff these rooms full time. And that's from the first morning bell till the end of school bell, and it's staffed all day long. Some of the rooms have enough space where all the counselors are actually housed in the room. So at Cielo Vista Charter, there are 3 counselors and they are housed in the wellness center. So they have an intake and they have all of the counselors providing the services. Now, we do have therapists who see clients as well. Our students are their clients, and they're also in the wellness center. They see those. In addition to space and staffing, there were installation. We had to find installation staff, finding a contractor to do that. So we've had some turnover there. We've learned some lessons there. And I'll talk a little bit about course corrections and making sure that the rooms that were available were actually cleared out. Another thing was summer was very, very difficult. We did not anticipate that we would have limited schedule and limited opportunities to actually get into the school and do the work during summer, during Christmas break and spring break. So we've learned all of this in the last 18 months. Some of the course correction that we have put forward is actually working with core volunteers. So we had MS Consulting come out on a Saturday and outfitted almost an entire room. And it was like, oh my God, we're really onto something. If we can get groups of volunteers to come in, our lead designer doesn't have to look every few months for more installation staff. So we will approach Wells Fargo and Premier Pacific and Bank of America, other groups that we know, the Greater Palm Springs Realtor Association, other groups that we know that do community service, and they can do the bigger items, maybe not the more artistic and decorative, but they can assemble furniture, they can put up the garden walls, they can help with the floor coverings and so forth. So we feel very optimistic, and we believe that our projects will be on schedule and they'll all be finished by June, July, which will be the start of our next school year. And you'll see down, there's our dates that we anticipate. So this is Belmonte, like I said, we'll be starting in October, then we'll move over to Catherine Finchy and Korea Elementary. Now, the good news is they all have space. That's the good news, and we made sure of that. They did not have space last year, so we were waiting for that. And I can show you the next. So we had some really unexpected wins, and one of those was working with a company by the name of Vitrek. And we worked with Vitrek during COVID. Vitrek is the organization that built a very specific and unique, it's the only one in the country, software for the intake of the students. And when I mentioned before, we can pick up blood pressure and temperatures, is because the system that they built do those scans and then they capture that data. As a result of the funding in the wellness centers, and that we can track this data, our school district was able to secure a $2 million grant to provide telehealth services in all of our wellness centers. So telehealth services, our school district has licensed therapists, and we do therapy with students, they would be our clients. And we're very fortunate we can bill Medicaid for that. However, we don't have therapists on every single campus. So having telehealth that's available to us, a student can walk in distress, and within a minute, they can be on the phone with a licensed therapist to help, manage any of those feelings and emotions that are going on. And so that has been a result of the funding that's been made available for the wellness centers. So we were able to get that. The other thing we were able to get as a result of the funding for the wellness centers, state of California now has a new job description. And that's called wellness specialist or wellness coach. This did not exist last year. And it exists now, and we were able to apply for the funds, and we were granted the funds to hire specific wellness coaches and specialists to staff the wellness centers. And that would not have been possible if we didn't have the wellness centers. So those are some real wins out of the project that we didn't expect. This is a before and after picture. If you haven't seen a wellness center, we'd love to have you come and visit. So the side that looks like the 1970s, I guess in the 70s they used to paint formica, at least in my doctor's offices, that's kind of the way it looked. So that is what the wellness center, which really wasn't the wellness center, it was the counselor's room. And the counselors operated in that room. And this is the reimagined, remodeled wellness center of what it looks like today. And then I'll share with you that they only get better. Our lead designer gets more creative and more into it. And he tries to outdo one over the other, so we might have a little contest at the end of the school year. But that is our presentation, and let me just ask Nicole, is there anything you'd like to share? Nicole actually is on site and might have some story, and then is it okay to make time for some questions? Chairman, any questions?
It's good, I don't know, are there any questions by any of the commissioners of either of our two guests?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What, I'm sorry, what did you ask?
Oh, I do.
Yes, please,
I'm really delighted you're here
thank you.
because I've been the one asking, where are you forever? And Vista Del Monte is on this coming year, right?
October, next month,
Okay, that can be important.
very important.
Yeah. With your wellness room, what is the commitment from Palm Springs Unified to continue that kind of program? And are they giving you some money with all the grants that you get? Your work is tremendous, I have to say. Thank you for the shoes. For everybody. But where does the district stand on continuing this?
So that's a great question, and that's the long-term sustainability.
Mhm.
So the district was awarded the money to have staff, right? And so the district's commitment is to make sure that the staff doesn't go away when the funding goes away. So I don't think the district would have applied for the funding if indeed they did not believe that they could or wanted to sustain that position in the wellness center. And I think with mental health and behavioral health escalating and what we're seeing in the public eye, we're seeing celebrities and athletes just being so much more forward about how they feel under stress and anxieties. So far, we believe that the school district is more than 100% in with the telehealth and the staffing positions.
Yeah, it is across the country. It is a
Yes.
program that's really recognized.
And we hope one day it'll go away, right? I mean, that would be ideal, but until then, as a matter of fact, I'll just share with you. I'll share
I
with you.
could yell across the room.
I think the statistic is very interesting. I joined the district 11 years ago and we have some district familiarity here as well. This is my memory. I think we had about 5 mental and behavioral health specialists when I arrived 11 years ago. And I believe we have about 25 now. So it's only growing in the district.
You have a counselor at every school. Am I correct with that information?
There is a counselor at every
That
school.
is there 24/7 or whenever.
Yes, from bell to bell.
Okay,
Now, some schools have more than one counselor.
okay,
Like, for example, we have the K-8, which is an elementary middle, they have 3 counselors.
okay.
High schools have more counselors, middle schools have more counselors. Elementary schools have 1 counselor And this is a big learning curve for them as far as having a wellness center, because the counselor in elementary schools are used to going into the classroom to counsel. And now they have the sacred space to counsel. So we're really working with the school on how to have it designated. That's why the behavioral, the wellness specialists and the wellness coaches are so critical, because now the counselors can actually be on campus the way they are familiar with working with students, and that coach and specialist can be designated staff in that room.
Are there plans to go to the schools outside of the city of Palm Springs? You can't do it with this money, but Desert Hot Springs?
So the Palm Springs Unified School District takes up 500 square miles. And that includes Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage. It meanders around Costco and goes to the Aqua Shore Arena, so we're in Palm Desert. Then it comes west on the north side of the 10, and we are in Thousand Palms, Sky Valley, and Desert Hot Springs. We have 26 campuses, 20,000 kids, 98% are on free and reduced lunch. And I will share with you, we will have wellness centers in every single school. And the Desert Healthcare District Foundation has funded Desert Hot Springs schools.
That's super.
Yes.
That's super. Thank you so much. I am really happy to have you, and your work
Thank you.
again is exquisite, and this is a big need. Do you need more money from Major J? I
A
mean-
nonprofit never
I need to
earn money.
ask that.
Never. So I will share with you, we wanted to make sure we got the report to you in time so that we can submit the application by the end of the month.
Okay,
We are actually looking at something that is a community benefit. And we would like to submit a request to help us upgrade the sound system at the Palm Springs High School auditorium, which is the Richard Center, which our community uses. And that was, the equipment is about 11 years old, and it was high school equipment. And with the need in the community for the demands of technology and at the rate it's all changing. So we are working with the film festival, and they would very much like us to submit a request. So hopefully Measure J and the film festival will be able to support that.
and you have a fundraiser coming up.
We do, we're celebrating Rio de Janeiro, so carnival, so bring your tail feathers.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Goodman?
Nicole?
If not, yeah, if not, thank you both for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, everyone.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I believe the next item on the agenda is presentation by City Attorney Jeff Ballinger, is that correct?
Yes.
It's overall discussion item for community initiated projects, and City Attorney Jeff Ballinger is gonna go into some legal stuff that you all might be interested in, especially what constitutes conflict of interest.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me, Chair, Commissioners. I know I met some of you, but I'm Jeff Ballinger, City Attorney for the City of Palm Springs. I was asked to come here and give you a very brief overview of conflict of interest rules as they pertain to you as public officials, commissioners, as you go about this year's process of making recommendations for Measure J projects. So I will try and keep this very brief. I will let you know that my contact information is available on the city's website, so you can either give me a call or send me a text from that contact information, or you can reach out through staff if you have any follow-up questions. This is really meant as an overview. And I believe Melissa has sent you 2 documents that I'll kind of go over. One is a very brief 2 or 3 pager, and then the other one is about an 18 pager if you want to go into more details. The basic premise of California's conflict of interest laws for you as public officials is that you really shouldn't, and I shouldn't, I'm a public official, we all are, we should not be making decisions that potentially impact our economic interests. And the conflict rules really are specific to economic interests. They don't really concern themselves with non-economic interests such as family or friendship or just relationships that we have through community connections. They're really focused on economic interests of ours as a public official. And the idea here is that, look, we all have interests, economic interests that touch the community. That means we're involved in the community. And there's nothing wrong with that. When it becomes wrong is when we have those economic interests that may be impacted by our governmental decision that we're making, and we continue to make that governmental decision in the face of that economic interest. Because when that happens, there's going to be a question in the public's mind about whether we're making that decision purely on behalf of the public and the public interest, or if we're letting our economic interests affect our decision making as a governmental official. So the 5 things that I would ask you to remember from tonight's discussion are the 5 types of economic interests. Once you're able to identify those 5 types of economic interests and whether you have those, one or more of those economic interests that might be impacted by a governmental decision as a commissioner, then you can go to staff or you can come to me and we can go through the analysis about whether it's going to be impacted by your governmental decision and or if there are other exceptions, because as the 18-pager will demonstrate, there are going to be exceptions even if it's determined that your economic interest is impacted. So the 5 economic interests that we have as public officials are a business entity, real property, income, gifts, and your personal finances. So a business entity interest would be if you have an investment in a business worth $2,000 or more, or if you're a manager, director, or employee of a business entity. So you can imagine if you have a $2,000 investment in, a local restaurant here, you and some other investors have invested in the restaurant. That restaurant is applying for a Measure J project. In that case, you have a business entity interest in that restaurant, and you really should step back. You should recuse from participating in making that decision, because again, the public's not going to know, are you making this decision on behalf of the public in the public's interest, or are you making the decision in a way that's going to impact your business entity interest? The second type is real property. So any real property in which you have an investment worth $2,000 or more, then you have an economic interest in that real property. So it could be an ownership interest, it could be a long-term lease interest. Month-to-month leases are not considered economic interest. But say you own a home or you lease a home here in town, and a Measure J project is being proposed across the street or a few hundred feet from your home. In those cases, you should probably recuse from participating, because the Measure J project might impact the value of your home. Could impact it positively or could impact it negatively. The conflict of interest laws don't really care whether it's going to be a positive or negative impact on any of these economic interests. The fact that there may be an impact at all is what matters. And so you should be aware of where you own property and where you lease property. And that's why we fill out these things on our Form 700s, is so the public knows whether we have these economic interests and they can kind of help serve as a watchdog role. The third type of economic interest is a source of income. So if you receive $500 or more within the last 12 months of making a governmental decision, then that person or entity is what's considered a source of income. And it's important to remember, because we live in a community property state, that your income also includes 1/2 of the income of your spouse or your domestic partner. So if your spouse or domestic partner receives $1,000 in income from their employer, then 1/2 of that is attributable to you. And so therefore that entity that is giving your spouse or domestic partner that $1,000 is also a source of income. So say your day job is you work at a company and you don't have an investment in that company, but they provide you salary or income, and that salary or income is more than $500 in the last 12 months. That employer then comes before as maybe an applicant for Measure J funding. Then you need to recuse, because your source of income, economic interest, is going to be impacted by your governmental decision. Source of gifts. So gift under the conflict of interest laws is really something that you receive that you haven't given something in exchange for. So it's tickets to a hockey game, it is a meal that you didn't reciprocate, it is airline tickets to Barbados, All of those things are gifts. To the extent you haven't given something in exchange, it's a gift. Obviously, money that you receive from your employer, you've given something in exchange. You've given your labor, your work product. So it's separate from income. It's really something that you've received that you haven't given something in exchange for. The person or entity that is giving you those gifts is considered a source of gift. And if that source of gift has given you $590 or more within the last 12 months before you make a decision, then that person or entity is a source of gift that you need to recuse if they come before you. Again, the idea here is if somebody or some entity has given you that level of gifts in the last 12 months, the law is going to assume that your ability to make a fair and unbiased decision as a government official has been impacted, and you need to step back from that governmental decision. And then the final is kind of a catch-all, and it deals with personal finances. So say one of the other four economic interests aren't present, but a decision might impact the personal finances of you or your family. In those situations, then you need to recuse. The example that I sometimes see is maybe the city is doing maybe a brush clearing project that's going to impact the wildland interface that is adjacent to your property, and that could impact your homeowner's insurance rates if the project goes through. That is not going to impact any of the other interests, but it could impact your personal finances in terms of the premiums that you have to pay on your homeowner's insurance. So I'd really ask you to pay attention to those 5 interests. I don't know what interests you all have and the other dozens and dozens of public officials, and it's impossible for staff to keep track of whether you have any of these financial interests. So the key is for you as public officials to know these 5 and be able to identify when you have them, and then you can come to staff in my office and we can help you analyze whether it's going to be material impact, whether it's reasonably foreseeable, and whether there are exceptions that apply. All the legalese that goes around these 5, but it's really incumbent on you as public officials to know whether you have these any of these 5 types of economic interests. So that's the basic overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have generally right now, or if you have specific questions about your interests, again, feel free to reach out to me directly after the meeting or through staff.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions of Mr. Ballinger?
Can we endorse Major J on the ballot?
So the question is, can commissioners endorse Measure J on the ballot? That's actually in a different area in terms of appropriate use of public resources, but the answer is yes, you can. You don't give up those First Amendment rights simply by becoming a commissioner. What you want to avoid doing is using public resources to do so. So, I don't think you have any resources, but you shouldn't. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to, occupy some portion of City Hall and use that for a Measure J rally or something like that. Or
You made a comment about signs. I brought signs. We can display those.
on your property, on your personal property, absolutely.
Thank you.
There's something illegal about that.
Any other commissioners have questions of Mr. Ballinger? If not, I want to thank you on behalf of all the commissioners for coming tonight. It's very, very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you so much.
The next item on the agenda is 7B, community initiated project discussion. Chris, you want to do it? We have the presentation could also be done by Vice Chair Davis, could be done by Commissioner Fuller, or it could be done by former Vice Chair Robin, who was also on the subcommittee, but whoever wants to do it, go ahead and do it. Yours.
Vice Chair Davis, I just want to throw out some numbers before you get started, just for everybody's education. So far to date, we've received 20 applications. 2 have not provided a dollar amount, so those will be thrown out. 1 withdrew because it was a small project that a public works department has taken care of. So overall, currently, as of today, there's 16 applications that are up for review.
That went through her application, so. The one that
Oh.
went through their application.
Oh, and one other person withdrew, sorry about that. Project type, there's city projects, total, a dollar total amount of 4.2 million. And then grants that are on applications total 1.3 million for a total amount of applications of 5.4 million. That's as of today. I do know, and Melissa knows that we are getting more as we speak. So we anticipate that these last couple of weeks, we're gonna get flooded with plenty of applications. So I just wanna throw that out.
That's Chris.
So have fun with that. You're flooded. And thank you for the work that you've done just with that initial, it's not really vetting, but just looking through them to make sure, did people provide the correct information or all the information that we asked? So I know staff is going back to those applicants if they aren't complete to ask them to fill that in, resubmit, or pull their applications. I appreciate that. So what we wanted to do was, because we've got what, 2 weeks, I guess, before they're all due, so I'm sure you'll send us an update after that deadline, but what we wanted to do is just take an opportunity to talk and discuss as a commission the process that we're going to use. So for the commissioners who were here previously, we did a lot of work. We had a subcommittee that did work back in early in the year, I guess, or the spring, where we outlined not only the application process, but we started to think about how are we actually going to go about managing the process once applications come in. So I went back and took the kind of the notes and those initial recommendations that we did, also spoke with staff and spoke with the chair to just really try to summarize that. And then we want to open some of that up for discussion because we need to make decisions about how we're going to proceed once the applications come in. I think we're pretty close, but especially for new commissioners, you'll get a sense of what that thought process was. So if you look in your packet, you'll see the document Measure J, Community Initiated Project Application Review Process Recommendations.
Under discussion.
Under discussion items
New business.
or new business, sorry. So the first page and half, or the top third of page 2, that is really just pulled directly from the application itself, but it's there for reference because we said we need to obviously evaluate the application submittals based on what we put out to the public as part of the application process. So I won't go through all of that, but it picks up where you see recommended review process. So we took a stab at the timing for all of this. Obviously, we have discretion on that if things don't move as quickly or we need more information, but this is just kind of a starting point for how might we work through the process over the next few months. So applications are due on September 30th. As I mentioned, staff is doing that initial, just making sure they're complete, asking for additional information if we have that. It's just checking for basic eligibility. Is it within the city's jurisdiction? Those kinds of things. So they've been doing that as applications have come in. Then once those applications are in, we've said really the first couple of weeks of October will then be time for staff to post all of those applications online. So we received clarification from the city attorney that every application has to be submitted online for the public. So we can't just review them separately. They all have to be posted publicly. So those will be posted on the portal, probably in bulk, I would assume. I'm kind of looking at, I know you all staff are determining how to best do that, but then our job will be, it's kind of a first pass. We need to review the applications, not so much for evaluation, but to determine if there's a conflict of interest. So that gives us a little bit of time to look at all those and, where are they located, who's asking for them, all of that. And then we'll need to provide that information to staff. We talked about having just a quick survey where you can identify, here's the list of applicants. Are there anywhere there's a conflict of interest? And that gives all of us a little time if we need to reach out to the city attorney to determine that. And it could also be not just an economic conflict, but if there is just another reason that you feel it's appropriate to recuse yourself from review, discussion, voting, certainly do that as well. And there could be some reasons why that makes sense just from a transparency standpoint. Then we meet on October 17th. And so that'll be an opportunity for staff to share, okay, here's who is recused from the various reviewing of the applications. It also gives us a chance if there are just any preliminary clarifying questions to ask those of staff in the meeting, but we're not suggesting that at that meeting, we're discussing them for evaluation purposes. It's really more just clarification, and I would assume there will be some clarifying questions. So that doesn't give us a whole lot of time, but gives everybody a couple of weeks or so. Then we move into the period where we're actually reading and reviewing the applications. We have about a month to do that. At a previous commission meeting, we talked about, what kind of rating do we want to use? And after speaking with staff, and this was, I think, what was used previously, that the rating, it's not really a rating scale, but the idea is that we would all review those applications kind of in their totality. So taking all factors into consideration, going back and looking at, everything we said we were going to be looking at when we put the applications out there. And then just identify, is that an application we should strongly consider it, maybe we need more information, or not consider it. So we're not giving it like a 1 through 10, and we're also not giving points to specific line items that we had in the application process, but because really it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. So we're really looking at all of those factors. Then that all gets tallied, and we come back to the November commission meeting when we're thinking we're doing that all online, kind of survey format. Yes, make it a little bit easier. Then it would be that November 21st meeting that we would come back together and really do our first pass in terms of a discussion with the commission. We can identify if there's more information that we want from applicants. That could be in a presentation at the next meeting. It could just be that we want a written explanation of something that they're asking. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what we'll need, but there's a period of time for us to determine if we need anything. We have a little comment in here, that maybe that if anything is over a certain dollar amount, we automatically want a group to come in and present in some way, or we don't have to do that. We can set that. Then that's November. That gives us then a couple of weeks in December to review additional information that has been submitted. The December commission meeting, that would give us the first opportunity to hear additional presentations that we've requested, and then have some discussion about which applicants do we want to have move forward to a final round, which are we not considering, and then it would be the January commission meeting where we would make the final decisions and recommendation for what we're presenting to council. So I know that was a lot, and it seems like a long time, but it also seems like when you sort of think about that's a lot of work for the commission to do between now and January, really.
Yeah. Couple of things. You are receiving, don't tell me. All these applications are coming to you.
Yes.
Okay. And we had talked about in our meetings, let's say it's a park and rec application, something for equipment, which is really park and rec. And if you take those things out, are they going to the Park and Rec Commission before they come to us, or at least to the director?
Yeah, so currently right now, when the Park and Rec project is in, even though it hasn't been considered by the commission, we're sending it to the interim parks director for consideration right now.
Okay.
And so she's acting, and the intention is that those will go in front of the commission, hopefully as soon as possible, so that we can get their consideration, and then they can bring that back, or we can bring that back, or the parks director can bring that back to the commission with a recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission. That's our desire. Like Vice Chair said, we have a condensed amount of time, so but we are trying to get ahead of that right now by giving those projects to our interim director Lori, and she is running with them as we speak.
Yeah, it may be time, pardon me, but when those things come to us and it's not what Parks and Rec have prioritized, it's sort of wasting our time because we're stuffing you seed on our list to do for 3.5 years. So I think it's really important if that can come back to us as this is what Parks and Rec feels they want to do. Then we can sort out the money part for them.
Yeah, we're doing our best on that,
Okay,
because
yeah.
we learned from last time. So yeah, we're definitely definitely doing our best with that, trying to get ahead of it. and trying to make sure that happens, and we're gonna do our best to do that.
Yeah, that would go for any commission request, I think.
Correct.
Okay, and the next thing, are we going to get hard copies, paper copies, or is it all going to be on computer? Yeah, I know it's a lot of paper, but I really like to read it and I really like to scratch it and put my question marks. But, you know, it's paper.
I mean, that's what you guys want,
Yeah.
either hard copies or.
We'll have them online, if a commissioner requests a paper copy, I think we can accommodate.
Okay.
Are you finding they're pretty thick
It's
application packets
It's
or?
gonna be a lot of paper, but for
Some of
me
them are,
personally,
We have
some of them
A
are
couple with
binders,
a binder, yeah.
Oh, people have submitted physical.
Yes.
Okay.
so,
binder, okay.
so. We hope that all of you will accommodate and want a paper but we'll try.
Chris, I have a quick question for you as well. Just remind me. We have $6 million in funding for this year's CIP with $1.2 million sort of overage if necessary.
That's correct, those are exact numbers, yes.
And we're gonna refrain from using CIP, we're gonna call it community initiated projects. I control the CIP.
That
would be helpful.
Capital
Which is
improvement.
a
How long have you been waiting to say that?
I teed it up.
we had that very discussion today.
And I guess my question is, will the surveys be published, or what time will the surveys be published, or, you know, at what date will they be published online for us to complete the process?
We're gonna do it as quickly as we can. So you're talking about as soon as when we shut it off on September 30th. We'll have a lot to go through, we anticipate. We're gonna run through them to make sure the projects are reasonable. But more likely we'll pass most of them, if not all of them, on to the commission. We're gonna try to do this as soon as we can. I don't wanna commit to a date because, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on at the city, but I don't wanna commit to a date, but I commit that we'll do it as soon as we can.
Okay.
I would also like to say, this is an individual project. This is you in your house individually using what criteria is there. And we got rid of the 1 to 10 numbers this year. So when you have a project that really speaks to you and it really meets all of the criteria, that would be a real yes for you. And then we will all meet here together and see if we all agree on that. Yes, that's how that's going to work. And if you like a project, but it's not answering all of the questions, that's when you're going to bring the people in to speak. Is that correct? To give us more information?
We'll take the commission's direction on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
If the commission desires someone to come in and speak, then we'll make the effort to try to do that.
okay, that's kind of at the end of the process, I see.
In November, if we
Yeah.
can stick to the timing, then November would be that
Yeah.
time where we'd say, okay, well, it seems like the
Yeah,
majority of us
okay.
need more information, or we really want to hear from the
Right.
applicants themselves.
Right. Okay, thank you. I think, this is a better process than we've had before. With a lot more, public seeing it, okay? And that's really important, what we're doing with our money, as you know, there are problems. And we need to make sure our dollars are going where we are asking, where they're supposed to be going. And that's up to us, we're called watchdogs, when I first came on board, we were called watchdogs. And I think-
That's fine. Commissioner Thickman, you have a question?
I guess my question would be, as we're going along this process, if there are questions or concerns, do we reach out to you or do we reach out to the commissioners?
No, yeah, you can reach out to staff, but
Okay.
it depends on what the nature of the question is, right? If it's a project related question, something you feel that an engineer should look at or have a response, then call me. If it's a financial question, call Chris.
Okay.
If it's general question processes, listen.
Okay.
Or commissioner.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, I think
Any
that's
other
the process.
Is it more about the process?
Well,
or
I don't know, this
You
is
don't
gonna be
know
my
what you
first
have.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just
Well,
saying,
us
as I'm
too.
getting prepared and I'm going through, you know, if I have any
Oh, yeah.
questions or concerns.
You could just email me or call me and then
Gotcha.
I can.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Wolfer?
Yes, I was wondering about, so the project grant disbursements and there will be an agreement with the city, and it mentions like a outline of key deliverables and milestones. Is that determined by staff or is that something that we're going to determine?
I think that's something that the commission determines.
But the
Do we
agreement,
have-
Oh, yeah, no.
the agreement itself,
The
staff is.
agreement itself is
keeping
something
that.
that we prepare and we have that with the organization.
So
Okay,
it
and
might
then-
incorporate the milestones or the check-ins that we're asking for, is that?
Right, and I'm just curious kind of where that would fit in the process.
Okay.
Is that something that we're going to decide kind of when we agree to a project, or are we going to like then revisit it after we've chosen the projects and kind of determine what particular milestones and deliverables we want for each one?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. I think once council, because I think you want to get it in front of council and ensure that they approve the project, so you don't do the extra work. And then when the council approves, if there's specific milestones you want to add to the agreement, I think that at that time we can do that.
Okay, so just to clarify, so after council approves, we can revisit it and then we can look at how, okay, how we wanna do that. Thank you.
Mr. Song.
So a quick question, I think two questions. One is so say that, well, actually, how do we decide as an oversight committee? Do we have to all agree in order to provide one recommendation? Do all commissioners have to agree in order to provide one recommendation to council, or, and does council, just to clarify, council votes yes or no on each community initiative?
That's
project?
correct. The commission is making a recommendation to city council.
And we are providing one recommendation, either all yes or.
As a commission as a whole, yes, you'll be providing the recommended contracts. Now, how that's determined with here, I'll let Andrea answer.
It would be, well, each individual project would, a majority vote, so we don't all have to agree, but we are gonna have to get, you know, some of this is about, it's like puzzle pieces, because it's also about the funding has to fit, so. I think we're gonna be kind of negotiating, discussing amongst the commissioners, like we're trying to get a collection of projects that don't go over the funding that we have allocated. I know you could probably speak to how that was done.
I think too, though,
Previously.
that is a good question, because not everybody will think something. Okay, there might have to be, looking at each project and say there are 3 people who do not think this is a viable project and the rest of us do. So I think majority has to win out there. I didn't get what I wanted last year, if you remember, but I've been a good sport about it all year. And I think we have to have a majority that do believe a project is worthwhile. And that will happen to us. I don't think we can get all of us all of the time thinking of something.
It seems to me, and Chris, maybe you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. That what we will do as a commission is approve X number of projects. Look at the total dollars that those projects have been allocated, and if it's over 6 million or $7.2 million. Figure out how to redo our approval to bring it under the right number. So I think at the end of the project that we're doing is to fit all those pieces together, as somebody else has alluded to, and make sure that we have proper funding for it.
Just one comment first, and Joe wants to speak. So, I was just gonna say, when you consider the dollar amount only up to 6. Because what we'll do is Joel will take, if it's some of his projects or some of David's projects back, they'll go and vet those, and then that's where the overage would kick in. So if we had a $500,000 project and Joel vetted it and it came out to be 750,000, now we're grabbing 250 from the 1.2.
Just a quick follow-up,
Mr. Saul.
yeah, sorry, the second follow-up question I had was, in a world where perhaps this 6 million is not, we don't agree on, certain amounts of projects that reach the 6 million, what would happen to those extra funds?
They would probably stay within the community, well, they definitely would stay within the community initiated project bucket. And the commission could choose to increase the overage amount for the amount of funding that's not used, I think.
I have one other thing I just wanted to clarify, because we got direction from the city attorney, and that is that our ratings that we give in that initial evaluation process are public by person. So the public will be able to see how each of us individually rated a project. And I think that might be different from the previous.
Oh, yeah.
time. Yes,
But that's okay.
I assume that'll be posted online someplace.
On the
Yes.
Yeah.
Do commissioners have any other questions concerning CIP?
Yes,
I seem to recall at a previous discussion, previous meeting, that when projects are awarded, that the entire amount of the funds are awarded to the successful applicant. And I was just wondering, this time, are there going to be milestones and funds are distributed in accordance with those milestones, or will it be a lump sum distribution? I mean, my feeling is it should be distributed by milestones.
So the city is currently working on a grants and sponsorships, policies, procedures. And if there are grants that the commission awards, we will follow that current policy and procedures, which could mean and probably will mean that we will disperse the funds as policy states.
Thank you.
I want to commend Commissioner Newby as having the farsightedness or foresightedness to bring his own nameplate to us.
No, I think I accidentally.
Are there any other questions concerning this process, the CIP process?
The community initiated project.
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
Community initiative project,
Oh,
exactly.
I had one other question. So I've had some questions just from community members about like whether they should include letters of support with their application. My understanding has been that public comment is the way to do that. If an applicant were to, try to, if they were getting more input and support like with their application. I guess I'm just kind of curious too, if we're getting like someone's emailing us directly, would we like send that to a city clerk to get that shared with the commission? I just want to kind of understand any procedure rules around that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea and a very good point. So if somebody sends a commissioner an email, we do that similar to our city council meetings. We can send it to Melissa, and then city clerk or Melissa, whoever the appropriate person is, will distribute it to all the commissioners.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Commissioner Wolf. With that, let's terminate and end tonight's discussion of community initiative projects.
Good job.
And Chris, we're going to your monthly report. Thank you.
Okay, what we're gonna go over today is final numbers for fiscal year 24. It's pretty early in 25, but I'll be getting those monthly reports next meeting. So we ended the year, these are unaudited numbers, so we're still closing the year. We have a few things to still book, but we're there could be a few adjustments, but I feel these are in good enough shape to give to the commission. So we ended up with $21.13 million in sales tax revenue. That is under the budget of 22.5. It is under last year 21.9. We've been tracking this all along, so I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. We knew we were going to level off this year. I don't have any foresight into the current fiscal year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we leveled off a little bit more. But still a really good number historically, and a strong number historically. And if it stays right around where we're at right now at 21.1, I think that's a good number that the commission can work with the projects. Interest income, $1 million, $1,083,000. The city's portfolio has grown quite a bit, but we see that kind of coming down with all the big projects that we're doing. So a good strong number there. Our asset management firm has been doing well at finding us good investments with good rates. And then we have miscellaneous revenue, $783,000. What this is every year during this time of year when we're preparing for our audit, we have to book a realized gain or an unrealized gain on the market value of our assets. Every fund that has cash gets hit with a realized gain or unrealized gain. So this is a realized gain of $780,000. Total revenue, $23 million. Going down to the $3.1 million on the expense side, that is the debt for the downtown park. That's the total amount of the debt service. That's the principal and interest. That amount remains about $3.1 million all the way through the end of the debt in 2035. And then we have community initiated project money at $516,574. And we'll get to the detail on that. And then we got airport reserve on the aviation fuel sales is 500,000. And that's the FAA requirement that any sales tax on that we collect on aviation fuel has to be set aside for airport projects. That number is still an estimate. We don't have a final number just yet. If it changes much, I can bring that back to the commission just to confirm. So 3.133 million, there's the debt service number. That street repair number is not right. I can tell you that's about.
It's
That's
like, what a coincidence.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at that.
That's about, so to date, the street repairs, I know the number though. To date, the street repair number is about 4.1 million. So we budgeted 9 million. And so we do carry over the budgeted amount into the next year because we know Joel's contract with the street repair company was just under $9 million. And those street repairs are continuing and those expenses will continue. So when we get down to the surplus, remember to tell me that we take off $1 million. Okay, so we'll go down below. The 3.13 is the debt service number. The downtown maintenance number is 683,000. We did exceed our budget a little bit with that number. There is some potential that we will drop that down to 650 and have the general fund pick up that 33,000. And then total amount of adopted capital projects at 12.3 million. We'll go to the detail on that in a minute, but that includes, if you remember, the commission approved $7.5 million to go to the Plaza Theater construction. And we had that in two pieces. We had $3.9 million in fiscal year 24 and 3.6 in fiscal year 25. So that $12 million includes the $3.9 million for this year's amount. And then we had small marketing expenses. The communications department bought some materials for Measure J, so we have $8,000 in marketing for a surplus of now 1.7 million. We're going to end the year at 8.2. And what I'll do, since I messed up on that community or that street repair number, I'll revise this and send it back out to the commission. And we'll post the right one publicly. Okay, let's go to the detail. Let's take a look at some of the detail. So you can see that I do have the right number for the streets on here, I think. But we'll go through some. If you look at the second column, the last at the very end, that's our actual expenditures for the year. So we had 4.95 for the recreational LED lighting upgrades. I believe we've collected everything. We've got all the invoices for that. So I think that is a final number. And then the 690,000 for the Article track sewer, that's completed. If we go down and look at the annual paving rehabilitation number, that's the fourth number from the bottom. That's 4,042,000. So that's the record. And then there you can see the Plaza Theater number ballooned by the 3.9, and so the total Plaza Theater expense for the year is 4.25 million. Pedestrian enhancements at 520. So we had total expenses for projects at 17.1 million. When we can look at the next page, which is community initiated projects. This is the detail behind that. You can see the Boys and Girls Drainage Club, that's complete. All invoices are in for 199,000. Shade structures at the animal shelter, 152,000 ongoing. Swim center locker rooms ongoing at 111, at 46,000, sorry, and the new dog park is at 111,000 for a total of 516,574. If anybody has any questions on anything, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
I thought you weren't going to do the roundabout.
We're not, and when we get to the fiscal year 25, we'll remove that entire amount back into, yeah, it'll go back into the fund balance.
That's good news.
And will you do, there'll be kind of an updated version of community initiated project sheet, but to kind of keep the in progress projects from the last round, keep those together, but remove the completed and then kind of start a new.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll probably, the ones that are still in progress, we'll just keep the history there too, just so everybody knows how much has been spent on the project,
Okay, but not commingle them, so.
but
we
not
know they're-
commingled.
Commissioners have any questions, Chris? Commissioner Newby?
Yes, my question is, as I recall, the downtown maintenance, landscaping and security sunsets. When does that?
The budget for the current year is 400,000, so we dropped it by 250 and advised to pay close attention to that, so we don't go over the budget amount. And then the general fund will pick up the rest of that, and then yes, in the fiscal year 26, there will be no dollar spent at the downtown, it's out of Measure J.
Thank you.
Commissioners have any other questions of Chris? Joelle, you have a presentation?
Well, Chris, generally, when he's talking about all the budgets of the projects, that generally is what my portion. So I'm here to answer questions if there's any questions on expenditure for project.
Apologize for the error, I'll be sure to get something out to you guys soon.
When I saw that.
All right, the next item on the agenda are commission member comments and requests. Do anybody, any of the commissioners have any? Mr. Footer?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to scoot over here. If you haven't seen these are out and about. And I have 3 extras and you can take them home. And I would like to make a comment at the bottom of this. It says the advertising has been paid by Howard Metzner. Am I correct on that?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay, well, if that is so, I think we owe Mr. Metzner a great gratitude. These are quite lovely and please take them. I'm bugging everybody in my neighborhood. And so they're here and take one. And this is to support Major J to be on the ballot. And I don't know where we endorse, Mr. Bernstein and I had a conversation. He said that, and your attorney said we could endorse. Where do we endorse that publicly? Do you know? Do either or 3 of you know?
In a public setting, my understanding is you can educate, but you can't advocate.
Okay.
So once and you're at your personal residence, you can do all the advocating you want in a personal Palm Springs resident, but as you're acting as a public official, you can't only educate about Measure J, give facts about what we have done, how much money it brings in, but you can't advocate for it until you get back into your personal role.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments by any of the commissioners? If not, I have one final comment or thought that I want to pass on. On the past city boards that I've served on in the 1PS organized neighborhoods of Palm Springs, I have prided myself on getting to know the strengths of the people that I've worked with. And I haven't had a chance to get to know many of you very well yet. So what I hope to do when I return to the city in mid-October is to start having breakfast, lunches, or coffees with each of you one-on-one, where we can get to know each other and what our strengths are and what our interests are, and to help work together on the community initiated projects and elsewhere. So I look forward to talking to you all, getting to know you all better, and I include staff on that as well, so expect a call from me as well. With that, is there anything else?
He's buying the coffee, right?
It's on me. If nothing else, I think it's time to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So move.
Second.
All right, any objection? If not, I'll see you all in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's basically, I'm so hungry.